This hearing will come to an order. Welcome to the Committee on the Budget's hearing on oversight of the Congressional Budget Office. Today we'll hear testimony from the Honorable Philip Swagel, the Director of Congressional Budget Office. I want to yield myself now, such time as I may consume, to just frame this up for today. We're going to conduct our constitutional and legal oversight responsibility. And I want everyone to understand that that we haven't had an oversight hearing, which is our congressional and constitutional responsibility, in 6 years. In 6 years. So before I levy the constructive criticism on your operation and have constructively critical questions of you, I want to first take ownership of and speak to Congress's responsibility and oversight. We have 40%, roughly, of our programs, departments, agencies that have not been authorized that we continue to fund. That is a massive dereliction of oversight responsibility. We have a growing amount of improper payments. And what was $150 billion a year prior to COVID is now $230 billion a year. And the authorizing committees, the oversight committee, the budget committee, we're not doing our job well in stewardship of tax dollars by allowing that improper payment number to continue to grow with very little done to bend the curve on that. So we passed a budget resolution out of this committee for the first time in 5 years. I mean, a real budget resolution, not a shell for reconciliation. Both parties have done it. This isn't to shame any party. It's to say we have got to set a better standard for doing our job that the people sent us here to do, and that the Constitution and the law requires. So the CBO was created in '74 in the Congressional Budget Act, and the current budget process along with it. 50 years of this budget process, Phil, we look to make the changes necessary to give greater incentive for members of Congress to do the right and responsible thing. That's underway. It's a bipartisan effort. The mission of CBO, I'm sure you'll speak to this, but as I understand it, is to assist the budget committees of the House and Senate with information and analysis so that we can conduct our legislative business. That's all legislation, appropriations, budget-related, authorizing legislation as well. And that you report to this committee and to the committee, the Budget Committee in the Senate. It's my understanding that the customer that utilizes your information trust and relies on the objectivity and the accuracy of it is members of Congress. And we're doing the work of the American people. Their will is reflected in our lawmaking. So we've got to get the information analysis as accurate and as timely as possible for us to serve the American people well. There's a host of factors that contribute to timeliness and accuracy, in my humble opinion. Methodology, making sure we understand what the methodology is, what's in the black box that spits out these scores and other analyses. Outside input, what input do you rely on from other sources? Who are the other sources? Are they balanced in terms of their philosophical views and ideological views? Is there enough transparency for criticism and peer review from these entities? Not the least of which would be our committee and other members of Congress. How are you organized? Do you have the capacity to be timely? Do you have the resources? Do you have the expertise? Do you have metrics and goals? And do you have the incentives, carrots and sticks, to make sure that we're getting the right outcome out of CBO? Reporting documents. How often do you report? Are they clear so that I can understand if we're off by $1 trillion on the deficit, that I don't have to go find an email buried in my stack of emails to learn of that? Is that something we're communicating directly about? Is that something that my Democrat colleagues and my ranking member also have in a timely way? I've got to engage more. I'm going to say that right now. You and I have to talk more. This committee needs more time with you, informally and formally. We're going to have more oversight hearings, and we're going to work together to get this communication flow both ways working better than it has been over the last year. It's my first year. I plan to do a lot better. And Phil, we've got a plan. We've got a plan to deal with improper payments. We've got a plan to deal with getting our budget done on time. We've got a plan to focus on mandatory and not obsess over just the discretionary budget. We have a plan to hold authorizers accountable for unauthorized spending. So we've got a plan to do better, and we have to. But I need to understand what the plan is to do better at CBO, because, and I don't want to, I know I'm going overtime here, so I'm going to shut this down because I don't want to revolt here on the dais. But there's just, it's not just the deficit off by over 100% and underreporting. G.T. Thompson sent a letter, and you should read every chairman's letter. But he said over the last 10 years, it's just an example, the farm programs, the commodity programs, were overestimating in their spend by 80% of the time, not by 80%, 80% of the time. The nutrition program was underestimated over the last 10 years, 60% of the time. And I've just got a litany of your customers who are very concerned with those key objectives, timeliness and accuracy, without going through all of them that I've written down. I know there'll be time for questions, but I hope you will agree that we can do better. I'm going to do my part, and I want you to hear today from my colleagues about their sentiments and their perception. But by the way, if you ask me or my mom, I'm tall, dark, and handsome, and I do everything just perfectly. But the real question is, how do my colleagues here think I'm doing? How do my Republican colleagues in the steering committee who elected me for this position think I'm doing? How do my constituents? Phil, the question is, how does your customer perceive you? Because for better and for worse, that's the job you're doing. And that's the job I'm doing. And I believe these guys are your customers at a minimum. Maybe, I'd say in this room, they're your customers, your shareholders, and your bosses, all of them. So with that, I'd ask my ranking member for his comments as well, as much time as you may consume.